Ted,
Yes, sir.
fighting the insurance companies is what we do every day.
Yes.
Some of our shows are tailored around child support, hearings, property, divorces, whatnot. This is our bread and butter right here, fighting the insurance companies. So, a lot of times we jump into these shows and we hammer out, why it's important to review your insurance policy, what to look for. And I think the reason why it's so near and dear to us is because when we have individuals that come into our office and have some type of catastrophic loss or to have a need, and then we start looking at the insurance layers, and not only is not enough insurance there for them, but then they didn't purchase uninsured motorist coverage.
Well, and that's the most frustrating thing, is because we have some terminologies and phrases that are thrown around in the industry, especially that don't exactly sound like what they mean. If I've heard it one time, I've heard it 1,000 times. When I ask someone if they know what their coverages are, they'll tell me, oh, I know I have full coverage. And my immediate response is, well, what do you think that means? Because it doesn't mean precisely what it says. Technically, full coverage from a legal standpoint means that you simply have what the state minimum requirements are, which are not very much here in the state of Florida. All that is $10,000 of property damage liability coverage, which means that it will protect the other vehicle that you possibly harmed, and $10,000 of no-fault benefits, which is going to help you get that immediate medical treatment and get things started, but will very quickly get eclipsed, especially if you have to go to the emergency room. So it's important to actually look at that policy and see what that is, because as you and to change that and assess that as you grow and as your life situations evolve.
We know when you're early on and you get out of college, maybe you don't have the money to pay for a big policy, and it doesn't mean that your life is not as important. It's just you don't have the money
but
to
it's
cover
a cost-benefit analysis. I mean, obviously, if all of the things being equal, you would love to have millions of dollars in coverage that protects you, so that no matter what, you're fully covered. Or have the other person have that insurance also. But because we live in a state that has chosen to not require other people to carry mandatory bodily injury coverage, you have to be prepared, because there are a large percentage of the population that is running around with either little or no insurance. So it's on you to make sure and protect yourself.
Now, Ted, two things. Number one is uninsured motorists is so important in the state of Florida that you actually have to sign a form to waive that coverage. And so I think insurance companies have done a very good job of selling that, to say, if you sign here, you're waiving this coverage because the other person is going to have insurance, and we're going to have to charge you an additional premium if you don't waive this coverage. And so a lot of people just sign, and not sure what they're signing away. But we talk about it all the time. It's so important that you actually sign the document to relieve the insurance company from abiding by Florida law.
Right, and the reason the legislature has mandated that is because you need to have that exposed to you and explained to you. But the problem that I've seen at times is some people will have that discussion with their agent, and look, anytime insurance premiums go up every year, and they get higher and higher and higher, and so I know everybody is cost conscious and wanting to keep that as low as possible, and that's totally understandable. But I've heard the argument, well, I have health insurance, so I won't need that uninsured motorist coverage. But the problem is there's many gaps in what that will cover, and I'm not sure that I've ever spoken with someone that's been in an accident of any consequence that says, if you just pay me my medical bills, I'll be fine. Because there's a lot of consternation, suffering that's involved in inconvenience that's involved in being in an automobile accident, something that you didn't choose to happen. Now, it's not typically not intentional, but it's negligence, and you want to be properly compensated for that. So in order to make sure that you're protected, insurance is about risk assessment and risk allocation. We don't buy insurance to cover us if this pen were to be destroyed and we lose it, but there are other things like our home and our body that we have to make sure and take care of, and make sure that we have adequate coverage.
Now, Ted, we also, on the heels of that, we also have a misconception of, why is my insurance company paying and I did not cause the accident? And I believe if my numbers are right, we may be the only state in the union now, I think it was down to 2, but it's either 1 or 2, that has no fault state versus a mandatory bodily injury coverage. And basically what that means is other states, they require their drivers to have mandatory bodily injury coverage, which says if you get involved in an accident, they have at least a little bit of insurance company written on every policy to cover you for your losses. Well, in the state of Florida, we have no fault, and a lot of people have a hard time understanding that, especially at the ballot box when that comes up for an issue. But explaining that as to why my insurance company is paying and I didn't cause the accident.
Right, and that's another one of those terms that doesn't mean precisely what it sounds like it means. We are in a no-fault system, which requires every Floridian to carry $10,000 of what's called personal injury protection insurance. That is the first pot of money that's in play anytime there's an accident. And the rationale behind that system is if everybody has that, then they're able to get that immediate medical attention right away, and there's no delay. Because, for example, even though we have a no-fault system, that does not mean I don't have a claim against you if you cause the accident. Right. The problem with that particular claim is that takes time, and that can only be resolved once, and there's a full and final resolution. However, in order to get to where you even know how to resolve the claim, you have to be able to assess the full extent of what those damages are, which requires you to get treatment and to get better. And so the PIP works akin to health insurance, and they can bill that directly, and it actually is your primary health insurance whenever you've been in an auto accident. And if you do have health insurance, which hopefully you do, it will not be triggered until that PIP no-fault benefits have been exhausted, and many times that's why it's important to have some assistance to make sure that those bills are being submitted to the correct areas at the correct time, because it can lead to things being denied and delays, and then bills get to piling up, and that then adds on to your frustration when you're dealing with an accident.
We know